everyone, PeachesJamesKeaton here with PJKNotary. Welcome to my channel. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about a hot topic that is in the notary community. And it's about whether or not signing agents should be giving descriptions or summaries of the loan documents when we are at the table with the borrower. Um, I will give my opinion today just based on my experience as a signing agent, but then also my experience on the other side of the table, being a borrower when I first purchased my home, just my experience on the other side of the table as well. So I just want to give my opinion, my perspective, my thoughts on it. But I actually would love to hear you all's opinions and perspectives as well as kind of what you think about this topic. Because again, to each his own, everyone kind of has their own experiences and opinions around this topic. And so I am not here to say whether one way is right and the other way is wrong. It's all about perspective and what we feel, the type of service that we want to give, what we feel comfortable doing, what our clients expect of us. There's a whole lot of factors that kind of go into this topic. So I am going to be just giving my perspective on this topic. So I am a proponent of giving a brief description or summary of the documents. But before I get into my reasons why, I first want to say we have to do our job as the notary public first. That's the first and foremost thing. We want to make sure that we're doing that part. Are we identifying our signers, collecting the proper identification, the identification that our state allows? Are we doing that part first? That's one of our main duties, is identifying the person. Is this who is before me? Is this the correct individual? And do they have proper identification? And then our notarial certificates, do we know how to properly fill out a certificate and stamp it properly and all those things? Do we know what certificate requires an oath and affirmation? So that is our first duty, is doing our job as the notary first, because there are other individuals in the real estate process that can give the brief description of the documents and know these documents better than we do as the signing agent. So there are other individuals that can actually do that part, but not everyone can do our part as the notary. So you first and foremost, before we even get into the topic of describing documents, you have to make sure that you are a good notary public and you know what you're doing when it comes to that part. So I did want to just put that out there first. But the reason why I am a proponent of describing the documents, first I'll give my experience as the borrower. So when we first purchased our home, I'm at the closing table. The first thing I started to do when the notary gave me that first document, the first thing I started to do, I started to read the document. I started to go through, because I am not one that I will just sign my name. I at least want to. I might not read every single word of a document, but I am one that I'm going to at least skim through and see what am I signing? What even is this document? And so I started to do that, but then she actually started to describe what that document was to me. And she continued to do that. And then that actually made me relax a little bit. It actually gave me a little bit of peace of mind that, okay, she's given me that description of kind of what it is that I'm signing. And then I didn't feel like I had to go through and read everything, because I felt comfortable and confident now of what I was actually signing. So that's my experience as the borrower. And on the flip side, that's exactly what I want to make the clients feel like. I want them to feel like they can trust me, have confidence, and make them feel a little bit more comfortable. And I also want them to feel like that if they don't want to or they don't choose to, that they don't have to read and try to understand the ins and out of all the documents. Now, I will never take that right away from anyone. I will never discourage any borrower from not doing that. If a borrower wants to still read everything, they are well within their right to do so. There are some examples that, we have those readers sometimes, and that's okay. Sure, does it take more time? Yes, it does, but they're in their right to do that. But I feel like for the majority of people and the majority of the clients that I've come across, they don't want to sit there and have to read through 150 pages. They kind of appreciate having that brief description. Here's what that document is. Here's some of the pertinent information of kind of what this document is. And then here's where you sign and date. Now, we want to make sure we're not crossing the line. We really want to make sure we're not crossing the line. So I feel like you want to know enough as a signing agent, but you definitely don't want to cross the line and trying to really go into why a document is, says this, or going into the why. So you don't want to cross the line, but I do feel like giving a brief description and pointing out things that are in the document is well within our wheelhouse. So when I go through a document, I'm not making up anything. I'm not interpreting the document and kind of using my own words. I am literally taking words that are in the document and I'm pointing out those words. Like, for example, errors and omissions. So if I say something like, if there are clerical errors, typographical errors, these are words that are in the document. And I'm kind of pointing out in the document where I'm getting this description from. So that's the other thing too, where I feel like we as the notary, we don't want to be just making up things and going off of our own interpretation, trying to use those words that are within the document and just pointing them out to the signer, just so they know that, yep, this is what that document is, because I can see it right here. So for me, my experience as a borrower and as a signing agent is I actually appreciate the brief description of the document. Another reason I why I like giving the signers that brief description, especially with the numbers, is to make sure, again, that these numbers are what you were expecting. So I'll put an example of the closing disclosure somewhere up on the screen. So this is the document that I typically start with almost every signing, starting with the numbers, because a lot of times this is where most of the questions, are going to come from: the loan amount, your interest rate, their monthly payments, things like that. A lot of times the numbers, making sure the numbers are right. So I will start with this document and I want to make sure these numbers are what they were expecting. And so some people go through more items than I might go through on this document, but I typically always point out, this is your loan amount. And again, I'll point to where that loan amount is on that document so they can see it. Here's your loan amount. Here's your interest rate listed. I might point out things like there's no prepayment penalty, or maybe there is a prepayment penalty. Again, just so they know. I might point out if there's a balloon payment. I'll point out their escrows. Here's your escrows. Here's your estimated monthly payment. And then down at the bottom, I will make sure that I point out, here's your closing costs, and here is either what you owe, here's your cash to close, or here's what's coming back to you. And again, this is just to double check, are these figures what you were expecting? Most of the time I'll get a yes. Great. Then we sign and date. I don't go into why anything is the way it is. I'm simply pointing out, here are the figures on this document and are they what you were expecting? Now, just like with this document, if someone's like, you know what, why is my interest rate 4%? It should be 3.75. That's when I'm simply going to say, you know what, that's a great question. Let me get your loan officer on the line so we can make sure we get that figured out. So the same way we would call the loan officer, title company, whatever it is, we can do that on any of the other documents. And so that's why if I give a brief description and I'm pointing out things in that document, if they were to ever say to me, you know what, that's not what I thought that document was, or that's not what I was told that was, great. Let me make sure we clear that up for you. Let me go ahead and get the title company on the line. Let me get your loan officer on the line. And that's how I would clear that up right away. I'm not going to go back and forth or go into, because again, I'm not the expert on these documents. I'm giving you a description of what is in this document, but you know what? I want to make sure I get that cleared up for you. So so to me, there's always a way that we can make sure if they have questions on anything of these documents, we as the notary do not want to go into why something is the way it is. That is something we don't want to do. So if we're giving a description and they have more questions, that's when we say, hey, you know what, let me get the expert on the line for you. Um, and then we leave it at that. And so, again, this is why I am definitely a proponent of describing the documents, because I just feels like it builds that trust. It allows them, just a little more breathing room to say, okay, you know what, I don't necessarily have to read all these documents unless they choose to. And this individual has at least given me that brief description of what the document is. And then again, that confidence and trust to know, hey, you know what, if they have questions, we have people here that are ready to answer their questions, and we can get the right people on the line to do so. With all of that being said, I am also a fan of not letting it stop you from getting started. So if you are thinking about getting into the business, you understand the notary process, you've gone through, the necessary process to become a notary, and you understand the certificate, and you understand your job and kind of what you're there to do, but you're nervous about the describing of the documents part, I definitely don't want that to hold you back. I would recommend to educate yourself and start to practice, whether that's doing mock signings or just practicing or taking a training course or watching videos. There's a lot of resources out there to help you with kind of understanding the real estate documents, and at least what the transaction means and what the person's trying to do. Just understanding, again, just enough. We don't have to know the ins and outs. We don't have to be experts on these documents, but at least having that understanding and being a bit educated, I feel like, is going to set you apart as a signing agent. But again, don't let it stop you from getting started. Don't let that part, don't let being a notary public, doing that very first duty that we're required to do, don't let the describing of the documents definitely stop you. That's something that you can work on and just practice, with individuals, and you'll get into. And again, I was really nervous when I first started. I was really nervous, and I didn't know anything about real estate documents, and that was the part that made me nervous. But I knew that I had to still get started. I had to go out there and do it. And the more I did it, the more comfortable I felt, the more I understood, the documents, the more I got in a rhythm. And so you have to get started, by doing it. So don't let it hold you back. I'm definitely here as a resource as well. And I'm curious. I'm curious of what you guys think. What's your opinion on describing the documents? And why do you feel you're on either team describing documents or team not describing documents? Let me know, what your experience are, what your opinions are on that. I am curious to know, because again, I'm not one way or the other, right or wrong. Everyone has their own way to do it. This is just me, my perspective, my experience with it. So I'm curious what you guys think. So let me know down in the comments. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.